Hi, guys. This is Tammy Van Hollander of Mainline Play Therapy. I have been doing so many speaking engagements and podcasts lately on parenting. And I started to reflect on my 25 years as a play therapist and my 21 years as a parent, and all of the mixed messages that we have all received. I looked back on my career and even thinking about starting out early as a therapist and as a parent and reading certain books, and now being able to look back after many years and many trainings and working with families and really looking at how many mixed messages we have. So for me, this is a video for parents and clinicians on how can we start getting things right. We have received so many messages and so many readings of certain things that many people change is hard, and being able to recognize that many of the ways that we think of parenting, we may be looking at it through a different lens. My background is that I'm an advanced nurtured heart approach trainer. So I will be coming at this video a little bit from that lens of the nurtured heart approach, which Howard Glasser created. But also, I love Daniel Siegel's work. I love Ross Green's work. I love Bruce Perry's work on trauma because they're all attachment based. So I have today compiled 15 things that you were taught as a parent that are totally wrong and what you need to know. Number one, ignore a tantrum. I have trained and read many books in terms of the importance of ignoring a tantrum. So when we think of kids who are having these big tantrums, they're in this fight, flight, or freeze mode and acting out, and their behaviors are out of control. So when we are ignoring a tantrum, we have disconnected from the child. And what will happen? They'll begin to tantrum more. It will actually up the ante. We know that when the brain is in a fight or flight mode, what it needs to calm down is connection. It needs connections. It does not need to be ignored. In nurtured heart approach, stand one is absolutely no. I will not energize negativity, but it is also being actively present. So we are able to pounce on what is going well. I love how Daniel Siegel talks about that we have to connect before redirecting. So when kids are having big tantrums, we need to connect with them. Connection is what's going to quiet the brain, not ignoring them. Show them who's boss. We hear this one all the time. And parents feel like if they do not stay in control and show the child that they are boss, that the child is going to walk all over them. But basically, we see something different. If a parent is coming at a child in this no way, my way or no way mentality, the child is going to push back and push limits because they are going to be acting out. They're not being seen. They're not being heard. There's no dialogue. Let's talk a little bit about Ross Green's problem solving approach. There's no collaborative problem solving. You think about as we go through these different things, I think we think about if we're having big emotions, how would it feel if somebody is showing us who's boss? How would we feel if somebody is ignoring us when we're having really big emotions? As parents, we still can have clarity and we still can have control. But this idea of showing them who's boss is going to get you nowhere. Three, this idea that a timeout per age of the child. So if your child is 4, they should be in a timeout for 4 minutes. If the child is 5, they should be in a 5-minute timeout. What we know about timeouts is yet again, we are disengaging from the relationship. When a child is having big feelings, they're needing connection and they're needing some tools. So they may need a reset to get back online, to take a breath, but the energy really comes into the time that you are connecting with them. Children need the tools. When you put a child in a timeout, they're not thinking about what they did wrong. They're not thinking about how they could do it differently. They're either really upset or plotting a revenge on you, or just totally thinking about something else. And what's going to happen? The same thing's going to happen over and over again because you haven't problem solved it. You haven't given the child the tools. How do they know what to do differently? Give the child several warnings. So this one could be controversial because I know 1, 2, 3 magic is very popular for many parents, but for a lot of children, especially intense children, 1, 2, 3 magic or giving a warning often, yet again, ups the ante on their behavior. So you're counting 1, 2, 3. You have that difficult child and they're going to say 4, 5, 6. And then, which I often hear when parents are giving warnings, they're not just giving warnings. They'll say 1, if I get to 2, then there's going to be no video games for a week. If I get to 3, I'm going to call your father. All these different threats that start coming out. So, is there any connection in the relationship when you begin to give warnings? Nurtured heart approach does not believe in giving warnings. They believe in absolute clarity for the child. I need you to make your bed. I need you to put the dishes away. That way, there is no gray area in that absolute clarity. When kids know what to expect, their anxiety is decreased and it is an easier way to communicate. Strict rules and harsh punishment. This goes along the lines with show them who's boss, that there always has to be these strict rules and this harsh punishment. And what we know about harsh punishment and what we know about strict discipline is that it will either make the child act out more or that they will retreat because they are so fearful and anxious of their child's reactions. So it's important for kids to know the rules, but having harsh punishment, we know if you do the research of any type of spanking, what spanking does to the developing brain. And I encourage you to do some research on what physical abuse does to the child's developing brain. And they will go way more into that fight or flight type of mentality because they do not feel safe. Another one, which I'm sure many of you have heard or maybe said, I don't think as many people say this anymore. It's a little more old school, but do as I say, not as I do. This idea, yet again, of the parent having the power card and the child not having a voice. Go punch a pillow when mad. For years, I would suggest as a way of anger management to tell children to go punch a pillow. But what more research shows is when a child's having really big emotions and you're having the child go into another room and punch a pillow, what have you done again? You have disconnected with them. And once they're punching and there's nobody there, they may become even more dysregulated and more in that fearful state because there's no connection, there's no one there. So if you're going to punch a pillow, what I recommend is as a parent, you hold the pillow and you let the child know, I'm going to count to 3. And on the count of 3, you're going to give this pillow a big punch. And then I'm going to count to 3 and you're going to give the pillow a soft punch. And that way you are providing the foundation of how hard it should be. You are helping the child to regulate. You have the pillow there, so you are connected with the child, you are speaking with the child, and you are making eye contact with the child. All things that help to quiet that brain. Children should not ask questions. It is so important for us to teach our children to be curious, for us to teach our children that questions are important. If we do not allow children to ask questions, it's going to go within them. They're going to bottle it up and it's going to come in other ways. If we take the idea of questions as being curious and being able to provide that space for their curiosity, we're going to have more dialogue with them. We're going to have a more trusting relationship with them. Never question your parents. Yet again, many of you may be saying, well, these are things my child shouldn't be doing. But when you are in a connected, authentic relationship where children are being seen, when children are being heard, there is that trusting connection there and that attachment foundation that it's providing that safe place for them to question things. Now, we don't always want kids to question things, and especially when they really want something and they're going to keep questioning you and pushing you and pushing you. But how do we take that? How do we change the lens on that and use that as the strength of their persistence and their questioning and being able, it's hard for kids not to take no for an answer, but you can always have some type of dialogue, but it's choosing the energy. That's what we'd say in nurtured heart approach. We're not going to give it a lot of energy, but this idea for children to never question parents, something for you to think about. Parents should never apologize. Why not? Parents are people too. Apology is in the repair. When parents have big emotions, right, to big tantrums, which is a really normal thing to do, it's very easy for parents to flip their lids. And then there's the yelling. And then we're looking at these trauma wounds. The only way to heal trauma wounds is through attachment and through connection. So for parents to be able to apologize is all part of the repair. It's all part of the repair of their relationship. How are we going to teach our children to be loving, compassionate kids if we can't accept our own mistakes and teach children how important it is for us to be able to learn from our mistakes? 11, eat everything on your plate. This idea that children have to eat everything on their plate causes many power struggles, may also cause different eating disorders, and really being able to look at this idea of children eating everything on their plate. I work with a lot of kids with different sensory issues, and how are we exposing them and getting them to eat a little bit at a time, but also being able to give them some power within this decision making. This one I hear all the time. If a boy is mean to you, he likes you. We get this one all the time. What type of gender roles does this show? And how confusing is this for young children when a child comes home and expresses that this boy who is bothering them or bullying them, and the response is, it means he really has a crush on you. These are just things that we hear over and over, and we just have to stop and be aware of it. And you may have said it as well, and just recognizing that these have very mixed messages. If this boy is bullying a child or a girl, whoever it is, if the child is bullying another child, we don't look at it in terms of the child having a crush on them. We look at it as an issue, and how are we going to problem solve it and make it better? He's just a boy. I get this one all the time when parents come to me and they'll talk to their family members or they'll talk to their teachers, and the comment is, he's just a boy. He's just a boy being a boy. This again is a quick sellout that he's just a boy, that this idea that boys can't regulate their feelings, or boys can't, boys, all boys are physical. All of these different pieces just are false. And we need to look at that. And it's not about him being just a boy. Let's look about what the issue is and how are we going to find out what's going on underneath. I believe every behavior has a reason. We need to understand what that reason is. And I'll tell you, for all the years that I've been doing this work, I would never tell a parent that the reason for this behavior is because they're a boy. Here's a big one for me. Make sure you hug Uncle John, or you're not leaving until you give grandfather a big kiss and hug. This is a big one. This is such a big one because of boundaries and looking at the importance of touch for children. We know that positive, loving, nurturing touch, oxytocin, which is the love and joy hormone, goes all through the body. But when there is negative touch, then it is that cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone, and cortisol goes through the body. So if a child is feeling uncomfortable of hugging or kissing a parent or family member goodbye or hello, we need to respect those boundaries, because how are kids going to understand that their bodies are private and nobody should ever make them kiss or hug anybody? So many of you may be guilty in doing this, and it's common. We do it all the time because we want our children to be respectful. We don't want grandpa to get upset or Uncle John to get upset or think that our kids or brats are rude. But sometimes touch is too much, and being able to hug or kiss somebody is a very intimate thing. So if a child does not want to give a kiss or give a hug, they can give a high five, or maybe they can just give a wave, but it's not worth putting a lot of energy into it, because what it's showing is that you care more about how that relative is going to react than your child having really big feelings about touch. And they need to be aware if certain things don't feel good in terms of touch, for them to be able to say no. That's what we want to teach them. And number 15, never let your child see you cry or show vulnerability. I wanted to end with this one. Parenting is a tough job. There's going to be moments where we flip our lids. There's going to be moments where we lose it. And that's okay. It's okay to show vulnerability. It's okay to let kids know that you make mistakes. It's the repair. It's the relationship. Now, you don't want to be crying to your child all the time, because the child also needs for you to have clarity and have strength as their parent. And I see way too many children have to parent their parents. So we don't want that, but showing tears and showing feelings is, we want our kids to show tears. We want our kids to be able to express feelings. So it's really role modeling when you're able to be authentic and you're able to be in the relationship. Children want to be seen. Children want to be heard. Children want energy, but if they can get the positive energy, if you're able to see them through a lens of positivity, through a lens of authenticity and greatness and nurtured heart approach, there's such a big piece of how are we taking kids' intensity and being able to honor it and celebrate it. Intensity has been seen as the enemy for way too long. So we really need to change this lens. I hope this was all helpful for you. And I would love for you guys to add at the comments below, what are some of the things that you were taught as a parent or maybe as a therapist that you look back now and you recognize that it was done in a total, that it's wrong. It doesn't work. And we know that traditional parenting and old school parenting doesn't work, and the importance of connection and the importance of the relationship to quiet the child's nervous system and to be able to connect. So I hope you find this helpful. Feel free to check out more videos on my YouTube channel or on my website, mainlineplaytherapy.com. Take care, guys.